Here are 3 types of damage you might see on your fruit tree. Josh here. I've been growing fruit trees in the ground for 10 years and I've got hundreds planted. And what I realized early on is that pests and insects all love fruit trees. So you need to do some protection to keep them from eating it. But first, you need to know what you're dealing with. So, one type of damage that I've seen over and over on my property, especially outside my fence line, is from eating the top down. So this fig here behind me, this is outside my fence line, but I had some chicken wire on it. But this year, somebody grazed down from the top. And let me tell you, it wasn't too hard to identify what did it. Deer. Deer love to nibble on fruit trees. In fact, they'll even eat figs in some instances when they're hungry enough. And I guess my deer are pretty hungry here. But they've eaten apple trees, plum trees, apricot trees. I've seen them eat all kinds of trees because they love the fresh new growth, the young twigs off of that tree, and they will destroy a tree. So you have to protect them. So here's how I protect against deer. I've got a 6-foot chain link fence. That's the easiest way. Honestly, physical barriers are the easiest way to keep deer out. And sometimes you actually need more than a 6-foot fence. So what a lot of people will do is they'll actually do what's called a double fence. They might do a 4-foot fence with 3-foot or 4-foot spacing, and then another 4-foot fence. And 2 lower fences can actually deter deer from jumping over because they have very poor depth perception. So if you want to protect against deer, you either need one really tall fence or you need 2 fences to keep them out. Now, I have tried some chicken wire. I have tried some 6-foot metal wire. And in my open areas outside my fence, that's worked to a certain degree. But we'll see. So that's deer damage. Another thing that deer will do is during the rutting season, they'll take their antlers and they'll scrape along the trunk of the tree. In fact, my neighbor's pear tree had this damage where they came out and it was this 2-foot strip where all of this bark had been scraped off just on one side. And it was clearly rutting where those antlers were scraped up against the bark. Now that can destroy a tree if it's too much of that cambium layer removed. So you just have to be careful to protect those trunks, particularly for young trees. Young trees are way more susceptible to dying than older trees. So I always try to protect my trees up to a certain age in my outer field areas outside of my fence line. But physical barriers are best. All right, number 2 is going to be damage at the base of the tree. So if you see damage right around the first foot or 6 inches of a tree where there's nibbling, there's marks, teeth marks, clear shredding of the bark, that's most surely rabbit damage. Rabbit love to eat the base of the tree and they love to nibble on the bark, especially cherry trees, apple trees. I've seen it done, even persimmons in some instances. And so the bark of the tree is going to be most likely eaten in the winter. And a lot of times what you'll see is if there's snow cover, it'll thaw out and then the damage will be underneath where the rabbits have gotten underneath there and chewed around. So what you want to do is you want to protect the base of your tree. At least 18 inches is what I shoot for. And to do that, I actually use some corrugated 4-inch pipe that I cut to about 18 inches long, cut a line down the side of it and wrap that around all the base of my trees. You'll see that in a lot of my videos. So that's worked really well. That's kept the rabbits out. Sometimes you can also use chicken wire if you just want to do like 18 or 24 inches of chicken wire around the base of the tree. And usually this is only a problem in the first 5 years of the life of the tree. Once it gets really rigid and that bark starts to make those square bark marks that you usually see, it's not a smooth surface, the rabbit are less likely to damage it in that age of the tree. So you're probably safe to remove some of that once you get to that certain, and I shoot for probably that 3-inch diameter caliper of the tree trunk itself before I start removing the rabbit protection. All right. And then third is going to be things like holes in the trunk of the tree, very small holes, pin-size holes, or in the limbs themselves. You might see some holes with some of that, what's called frass coming out. It's like a pulpy material. That's going to be a sure sign of borers. So borers are actually a type of insect that will climb up from the roots along the trunk, and then they'll bore into the tree. And I've had several trees die from borers throughout the year, and usually peach tree borers, but there's also different types out there. So you need to keep an eye out for borer sign. You'll also see see gumminess coming out of certain spots in the tree, that's another sign of borers. That could be something else as well. So you want to diagnose it and make sure you know what you're dealing with. Other types of insect damage you might see are things like leaves eaten. Japanese beetles love to eat the leaves of trees, and there's all kinds of caterpillars that'll eat leaves of trees. And to protect against each of these takes a different plan based on the type of damage that you see and the type of insect that it is. So I would recommend that you look into it whenever you see that, and you need to jump on it right away because insects, like I said, can kill a tree. I've lost a peach tree, an apricot tree from this. So you need to protect your trees whenever you start to see the sign of insect damage. Now, Japanese beetles, I usually just take them and flick them off and throw them into soapy water. But you can also use milky spore as another tool that you can spread around that's going to kill them in the larvae stage. So keep that in mind. There's lots of different insects. I don't have time today to go into all of them, but you want to look out for insect damage as well. So those are 3 types of damages you might see. Deer damage, right, eating from the top or the scraping along the trunk. Rabbit damage at the base of the trunk, trying to girdle the tree on the bark. And then insect damage, which could be borers or holes up the trunk, or other types of insects which are going to eat just the leaves themselves. All right, I hope this was helpful for you. I really want everybody to have their home orchard. Remember, you love fruit trees, but so do all the pests and so do all the insects because they're tasty. So you need to get ahead on those if you want to have them live long enough to where you can actually get fruit. I hope you enjoyed this 20-day challenge. It's been so much fun to teach everybody on it. And if you want to learn more about growing your own fruit at home, check out the link in my bio for all the resources that I have available, including this 20-day challenge. And if you missed some of the earlier days, there's actually going to be a way for you to get in and get all of those emails that we sent out in association with these 20 videos. I hope it was helpful for you. And I hope everybody grows their own home orchard because remember, anyone can grow. All right, see you in the next video.